So here we are today. So excited to be with you, Dr. Kahleova, and we are talking about one of my favorite topics and the best nutrition for the brain, which is such a wonderful topic, especially living here in Naples, Florida. How about in Washington?
Oh, the same. Everybody wants to take care of their brain, right?
Yes, they do. And, we're going to talk today about how food affects our mood, focus, memory, and even Alzheimer's as well. And so joining me today is Dr. Kahleova, MD, PhD, the Director of Clinical Research at the Physicians Committee. So this was something I thought about. If someone told me that my next meal could change my mood and memory, would I believe them? I would, because I eat whole food plant-based now 9 years. Back in the day when my memory wasn't as good, maybe not. So that was, one of the first things I want to talk to you about and go into for everybody is, how does this really, with the latest research, what we eat affect our mood, our memory, and all of that?
I mean, food has a major impact on our brain function and on many levels. Whatever we eat, it shapes our gut microbiome, and the gut communicates with the brain. We call it the gut-brain axis. What we eat also helps stabilize the blood sugar. We know that any big swings in the blood sugar may affect our mood and our cognitive function as well. And so, having a steady blood sugar is a huge benefit of having healthy nutrition. And food also provides all the vitamins and minerals. I mean, the raw materials that the brain needs, to work well, just to make the neurotransmitters that are important for mood. It also influences inflammation. So if you eat foods that are anti-inflammatory, it will help brain function. If you eat foods that are pro-inflammatory, that promote inflammation, it will, the brain will feel it, and we call it neuroinflammation, inflammation in the brain, where you can eventually develop some cognitive decline. When we talk about Alzheimer's disease, sometimes we call it type 3 diabetes
Mm.
because of the insulin resistance and neuroinflammation that's going on in the brain. So we'd like to avoid that, okay? We'd
Yes.
like to consume foods that are anti-inflammatory.
So give me an
And
example, like a food for people that aren't familiar with foods that are inflammatories. What are some foods, maybe name a couple few that are anti-inflammatory foods?
so all fruits and vegetables are anti-inflammatory. All beans are anti-inflammatory. And if you want to trigger inflammation fast, processed meat is the way to go. It's the fastest way to go.
So what's one of your favorite anti-inflammatory foods? I'll tell you mine.
I love berries. They have been
Mm.
shown to be protective for brain function, and they're super anti-inflammatory. They have also a low glycemic index. They have been repeatedly shown in studies to improve brain function, but they're also good against diabetes, cardiovascular disease. They boost your immune function. I love all the berries.
Me too. And mine's oatmeal. So I do a gluten-free oatmeal in the morning, and I put berries on my oatmeal. And yeah, it's interesting that you said, I know when I used to race a lot, when I was doing triathlons, and I would always do my chicken, with these anti-inflammatory foods, but never knew that that was a food that was actually, inflaming me along with anti-inflammatory foods like broccoli or, you know, quinoa or something. So, well, great. So, um, my question is, because we already kind of talked about, the top. Well, I guess I would ask you, what do you feel are the top brain and mood foods? Are there certain ones besides berries that are like the top? This is a book I brought to show everybody, one of my favorite books from
Hey.
10 years ago, Dr. Barnard, who you work with. And I give this out to clients as well. It's a great book. So is there, one or two foods that you feel are the top brain and mood foods?
So number one would be the leafy greens.
Mm.
Because in the Chicago Health and Aging Project, leafy greens have been shown to slow down the aging process of the brain. Eating only 1 to 2 servings a day of leafy greens has been associated with a brain being 11 years younger than in those who were not eating leafy greens. So leafy greens would be number one. And then number two would be berries, but also citrus fruit and apples. All of these are rich in flavonoids. And flavonoids have been shown to not only decrease inflammation, but also increase the production of BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor in the brain. It's a
Can you say that
peptide,
5 times? That word?
BD, BDNF, brain-derived neurotropic factor. And it's a peptide that the brain is producing, and it plays a crucial role in neural survival, growth, and learning. So if you want to learn something new, you need BDNF. And flavonoids in berries, apples, and citrus fruit, those are the richest sources of flavonoids. They stimulate the BDNF production.
Great. Wonderful. So, I hear a lot, and one thing I just want to say, we won't get too much into it in this conversation, but people always, clients especially, will say, I don't want to eat berries and fruit because they're high in sugar. So, what are your thoughts what do you say to people when they say that? And I'll share with you what I say.
Well, berries are actually fairly lower in sugars
Mhm.
compared with other fruit. So if you're afraid of carbs in fruit, then berries would be one of the best choices. And brain is designed to have carbohydrates as the main fuel. It
Mhm.
runs on glucose. So if you don't have enough glucose, it'll be able to switch over to something else.
So when you're talking about berries and things, people, always ask me, and they're a little afraid of fruit. So how do you answer that when they say, people come up to you and say, well, it's high in sugar?
Well, if you're afraid of sugar, then berries is one of the best options because it has less sugar than other fruit and it's also low in glycemic index. So it'll, not spike your blood sugar. It will keep it fairly steady. But at the same time, there is a connection between eating fruit and cognitive function. So we know that the brain loves glucose as the main source of fuel. It works well when it has enough glucose. So don't limit your brain's main fuel. If it doesn't have enough, it'll be able to keep, to somehow cope with other sources of energy, but it's not ideal. For optimal
Mhm.
function, it needs glucose.
And I always add in, I always say that people need to be a little bit more concerned about how much fiber they're eating these days than sugar, because no one has fiber. Most people don't have a lot of fiber in their diet. So having that fiber with the berries in it, and the water content, as we know, most people are very dehydrated, which affects the brain as well.
Yeah, I mean, all the fruit comes as a package, not only glucose and fructose, but it has a lot of vitamins and minerals and phytochemicals and water and fiber and
Mhm.
it's just a whole package. So it's very different from drinking a Coke.
Yes. That's always the one thing very challenging to when clients come to us. First thing is, and it's really not Coca-Cola, it's these Coke Zeros and Diet Coke and all
Yeah.
these things that they're doing so many of. So if you had to
They
just,
they
oh,
still,
go
let me
ahead.
just comment on it. They still change your gut microbiome.
Hmm.
You would think, oh, these don't contain any calories. I can drink as much as I'd like. No, not really. They change your gut microbiome, and these changes are, not so great.
Is there any research on that latest research? Because one of my clients, she actually said, if you show me some research, I may quit. And so maybe, maybe you
Well,
have some research to help me to
let
give
me
to
give you a
her.
hint. In observational studies, both the consumption of sugar sweetened beverages, but also artificially sweetened beverages, has been associated with increased body weight. So, of course, there can be some reverse causation. People who are already struggling with extra weight may be turning to artificially sweetened beverages as an alternative. So we don't know whether there's a clear causation, but there seems to be some significant association.
Sure. And now the latest is taking a pill with the Coke Zero. So when they put on the weight, they can just take that. And it's just been this interesting 15 years of in my practice seeing the changes over the years. So um, let's just talk a little bit about Alzheimer's because that's a big thing. And I hear a lot that people will say, well, it's a genetic thing, it's not diet, it's
Mm.
not lifestyle, exercise. And so, what's the research around that? Is it due to genetics? Is it, and I always like to say, well, yeah, your uncle and mother and brother, no one moved and they all ate, ribs for dinner. So, yeah, it is genetic. So, what are your thoughts? What's the latest research on that, where this is stemming from, and what can people do?
It is true that there are some genetic risk factors for Alzheimer's disease, especially the allele ApoE epsilon 4. People who carry one of these, that increases your risk, and if you have two of them, it increases your risk even more. But we also know that lifestyle plays an important role. So, based on the research that we have so far, about 40% of Alzheimer's and dementia cases could be prevented or at least delayed by addressing lifestyle and nutrition factors.
Wow, that's a big percentage, 40%.
Yeah.
So how come I don't hear much of that in town about this?
Mm.
I feel like the only
Well,
person in town that knows, why is that?
maybe
Why don't we have
maybe it's
more?
because the studies that have been published on this topic are fairly recent.
Mm,
Dr. Dean Ornish published recently an awesome study on this. 51
yes.
people with mild cognitive decline with early stages of Alzheimer's disease. And he randomly assigned them either to be in the usual group or in the intervention group, which followed a plant-based diet, an exercise program, stress management, and group support for 20 weeks. And
Mhm,
in only 20 weeks, the intervention group got better. Their cognitive function improved.
mhm.
Lifestyle plays a major role. And he also showed that the better people adhered to the program, the bigger changes and the bigger improvements they observed.
That's a wonderful study, and we will include that. I sent that out, and um, it's wonderful that he put that out. Dr. Dean Ornish put that out. So, as we're talking about with Alzheimer's, for someone noticing, newly some cognitive changes, what's the first dietary step, recommendation that you would have for somebody that came to you?
Adopting a plant-based diet, and doubling down on the leafy greens and on berries. That would be my first recommendation.
Okay, so for someone watching this newly, can you give a short little example of when you say plant-based diet? What does that consist of?
That means a diet that consists of fruits and vegetables and whole grains and legumes. And some nuts and seeds, but those are only in small amounts. Like the majority of the foods that we eat on a plant-based diet, that's the whole grains, like millet and buckwheat and barley and brown rice. And there's so many. Most people have not even experimented with, the grains that are available. So whole grains, they keep your blood sugar steady. They provide a lot of fiber and feed your gut microbiome. And some of the ancient grains, such as millet and buckwheat, they're also alkaline. So they, help keep your pH toward more alkaline. Then beans and lentils and peas, these are rich sources of fiber and so many phytonutrients. And we don't eat quite as many beans as we should. As Americans, the target to eat at least half a cup of beans a day is far is far away. Most people don't eat this amount even in a week, let alone in a day. So this is the food that Americans would most benefit from, eating more beans and lentils and peas. Because everybody knows we should eat more fruits and vegetables, so
Yes.
they're doing at least something to increase their fruit and vegetable consumption, usually. And obviously, having your plate colorful and hitting as many colors of a rainbow in a day, or at least in a week, eating at least 30 different plant foods in a week to ensure that your gut microbiome diversity will be, large and will not suffer. Those are just, some of the tips.
And in our last interview, you talked about like red lentils, or you talked about lentils being a little bit easier on the
Yeah.
digestion. I added in more beans since last week because of you. So
Yay.
I
I
put some in
added,
my soup today.
yeah, I added red lentils to my millet this morning. I cooked millet. That's one of the ancient grains that's super nutritious and it's alkaline and
Mhm.
it keeps your blood sugar stable throughout the whole morning. And I added a little bit of red lentils for extra protein because I was working out in the morning. And you don't even taste it. It's neutral, so it doesn't really matter. It will become a mush, if you let it cook. So you don't,
Yep.
yeah, you don't taste it, and you just eat it with some fruit and some maple syrup. Yum. Was really good
Yeah.
breakfast.
And we could add a recipe or something to our interview here for millet, 'cause I know that's one of your favorite in the beginning for you. It wasn't it millet that you started with your mom?
That's right. That's right.
So we could do a little easy recipe for people to go out and try millet. For me, when I'm coaching people, I hold off on the millet because it's a scary, they don't know what, they've never even heard of millet. So I even
You
walk them
cook it
through the
as
grocery
rice.
store.
Yeah,
Yep.
you cook it as rice. So I usually cook it in the morning in an Instapot. It only takes 12 minutes. I do something else, I take a shower or something. I come downstairs and the millet is ready. And
Sure.
it doesn't have any taste by itself. It's like rice,
Hmm.
so then whatever you put in your oatmeal, you put in your millet, you know,
Sure. Cinnamon, flax seeds, brown flax seeds,
maple syrup
walnuts.
and berries, if you like raisins or dried fruit,
Sure.
apples, pears. Yum.
Instead of eggs and bacon and croissant.
Mm, those are inflammatory foods.
Yes, they
They would
are.
trigger neuroinflammation and speed up cognitive decline. The Chicago aging study also showed that saturated fat content in the diet is really important. Cutting saturated fat in the diet in half also resulted in, cutting down the cognitive decline in half and cutting down
Mm-hmm.
the dementia cases in half. So watching the saturated fat from animal products particularly, but also from palm oil, coconut oil, these tropical oils, those are also
Mm-hmm.
rich in saturated fat.
Did you, and I'll just ask this one last thing, we're going to keep this a little short today. Did you notice a change for you with your own brain, like once you went whole food plant-based? I know I did. I was just curious as you cut out, because I was doing all that too, coconut oil, chicken, very high saturated fat diet back in the day. Did you notice any changes for yourself in your own brain that you felt different when you started lowering the
Absolutely.
saturated fats? Can
Within
you
a few
share?
weeks on a plant-based diet, I felt like I had more energy. I
Mhm.
felt like my physical fitness improved dramatically, and I was healthy to start with,
Yes.
and that my cognitive function improved, that I was learning faster. Everything
Yes.
improved.
I feel the same. I couldn't believe it. So I never went back. So good. That's exciting. Well, thank you so much for today, Dr. Kahleova. And so we're going to talk next time about nutrition during.
Yeah. Let's do it.
I know I'm moving in that direction. So after turning 50, so I'm very excited to bring this topic for everyone and look forward to next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michelle.
Great being with you.